seem to be having some issues with the memos, the spacing, the formatting. So I'm going to review and fix one up for you so that you know exactly how it should be. Okay, to begin, here we have our memo. It's already keyed in, and I have the mistakes, a bunch of mistakes put in it. So to begin, it needs to be default font size. If you look at this memo, it's in size 14. That's too big. Your default font size is size Calibri 11. You could possibly go to 12 depending on the font, but normally you just stick with default. This memo, like all business documents, needs to start with a 2-inch top margin. So your letters are the same, reports are the same. You know, basically everything you do needs to start with a 2-inch top margin, and that's created by putting in enters. It's not changing the top margin. If you change the top margin in a document, it's going to change the top margin for every page in that document. You do not want your second page to have a 2-inch top margin. So you don't change the actual margins. You just put in 3 enters. I don't know why that jumped, but 3 enters. Okay, so now we have our 2-inch top margin. You'll see that it's at the number 1 mark on your ruler. If you don't have your rulers turned on, make sure you turn on your ruler bars so you can see exactly where you are. If your document is not set to inches, make sure you change that. Instructions are in the content area. Change your units of measure to inches instead of centimeters. So we're at the 1-inch margin here now. We count the 1 inch from the 3, and then your header is also 1 inch. So that's 1 inch, 2 inch. So if you were to enter to the 2, you will actually be at the 3-inch mark because you always have to count the built-in header. So what do we have here? We have to, from, date, subject. First things first. It needs to be capitalized and bold. So we're going to turn on our bold, we're going to turn on capitalization, and it needs to be 2. From. Oops. Date and subject. Just the heading words gets bolded and capitalized, not the actual information you type in. You'll also notice in the example I have here that it's spaced with spaces. We never use spaces. The reason we don't use spaces to indent or move anything is because no matter if you change your font size, everything else changes. If you change your font types, every font has a different layout, a different spacing, and a lot of times things just will not line up. So we're going to remove the spaces and put in our tabs. So they have to go, and we're going to use 2 tabs. That's where it needs to be. Sometimes with the subject, you can only fit 1 tab, like this time. Following your headings, so this is now correct. We're at the 3-inch top margin. Our headings are bold, capitalized, followed by 2 tabs. Correct. Next, we're looking at spacing. The first paragraph in a memo needs to begin immediately after your subject line. There's not 2 enters, there's not 3 enters, it's just the 1 enter. I have my show hide turned on, which is this backwards P looking button. That shows me exactly what's in the document. That shows if I have tabs instead of spaces. It shows if I have enters, where my extra enters are. So if I were to try and center this with spaces, it would show me the spaces. That's not correct. We have to use the information and the tools that we're asked to use, which is centering and tabs. Okay, so our first paragraph is fine, and we're moving into our second paragraph. So here again, we have some extra enters. These shouldn't be there. We're going to take them out. In our assignment, we were asked to change the title to size 14. So we're just changing the title. So we're going to just select the title. We also want it centered, so we're not going to use spaces. We're going to use our center on our toolbar, up on our ribbon. So we center it. I'm going to come back to the table because that's not formatted correctly. So we're going to come back to that. Next, we're going to go into the spacing after. Again, we can see there's 2 enters. It's too many. You can have 1 blank line after a table because it's kind of really close. So just 1. Not 2, not 3, just 1. And then at the end of the document, you can see there's a bunch of enters here. So I'm just going to delete them all. And we're going to talk about the initials. If the memo is from you, you're the writer, you're the author of the memo, you do not need any initials at the bottom. If the memo was from your boss, oh, I'm still in cap locks, then your initials need to go at the bottom. 1 enter, 2 lowercase initials is what it calls for. So mine would be RR. Now when I hit enter, it's going to automatically capitalize because that's a feature in Word. It thinks I made a mistake. You just need to go undo automatic capitalization, and that takes care of it. If somewhere in your memo or the letter that you typed, it said attached you will find or enclosed there is a brochure, you need to include that attachment. That's a special notation, so you need to let somebody know that there is an attachment. In the assignment we just did, there was no attachment. In this memo, it doesn't say that, so this is not required, but that's just for future use. Okay. So now the memo itself is looking really good. So we got the 2-inch top margin with 3 enters. We got our bold capitalization and followed by 2 tabs. So the headings are now perfect. Our layout of our actual memo, the paragraphs, is great. We have our initials perfect. The title for our table is good. So now we got to have a look at the table itself. We're going to select the table and we're going to see how the table is formatted. So right now, this table is formatted at grid 2, accent 3. Some of the other tables that we looked at, or that I looked at in grading, were just basic tables. So right now, I've turned it back to a basic table. I've looked at it. When I go up here, if you just hover your mouse over anyone, it's going to pop up and tell you the name of it. So this tells me that's a grid table, so that wouldn't be correct. So I was looking for table 2, accent 3. So let's turn that back on. When you're doing a table, you should also auto-fit it. Auto-fitting your table makes it look more professional, and it's not so spaced out. In this example, you were also asked to center it, so we need to go back to our home ribbon and center it. You were asked to change the headings to bold, which this one has. So some were not bolded, so we're going to bold them. and you were asked to center them all. So we're going to make sure they're all centered. You were also asked to make sure that the first 3 columns were to the left, which they are, and the 4th column should have been centered. So that needs to be centered as well. Normally with numbers, your numbers would be right aligned. So you would put them in here. But for this example, we were asked to center them. However, if you just have numbers in another table and it doesn't tell you anything to do, you're supposed to automatically know that numbers are right aligned. You were also asked to insert some rows, which everybody did correctly. So the rows were inserted. They were also asked to be alphabetical by last name. This table is, some were not. And you were also asked to insert an extra column to put in for the department, which everybody did correctly. So right now, this memo, like it is here, would be full marks. We've got every feature that we need for the memo, and everything is looking great. We have our 2-inch top margin with 3 enters. We have our to from date subject, bold and capitalized, followed by 2 tabs. Our memo has no errors in it. Our spacing is correct. Our line spacing is also correct. We've centered our title. We have created our table, and it is done with the correct design layout that was requested. All the alignments are as requested, followed by 2 initials, but your assignment was from you, so it was supposed to be no initials, and they always need to be lowercase and not uppercase. Okay, so that is a good first review of your memo here. Well, not first review, but review of your memo. In the event that your memo went to second page memo, it was a 2-page memo, you also can look at page, I'll pull that up for you, 3-28 in your text, and that'll tell you the header that you should use on a second page letter and memo. All right, there you go. I think most people did really good on their memo, but we're still missing a few headings and stuff. So hopefully this review helps. Thanks. Take care.